Hello boys and girls! This episode is the culmination of everything we have explored in this series, the Megabase. The goal here is to bring all the individual pieces together and form a cohesive understanding of how you can build a Megabase yourself. Everything we covered in this series exists to make this part easier. Usually, the size of a base is measured in cents per minute, either produced or consumed for research. In vanilla Factorio, you are already doing very well at several thousand SPM. With Space Age, that number increases dramatically. To be in a comparable range, you often need to multiply those values by roughly a factor of 100. This creates a very wide definition of what mega actually means. There are, of course, other ways to define a megabase. This base is nowhere near 100,000 SPM, so I tend to use a simpler definition. It's bigger and better than everything before. By that measure, this is progress. You do not start by building the final base with the first assembler you place. A megabase is built iteratively. The first factory produces the materials needed to build a bigger factory, which then enables the next step. This process may repeat several times. This is not rework. This is iteration. I usually select Railworld as the world type. This means we do not have to worry too much about the local inhabitants. Once they are cleared out of the pollution cloud, they no longer respawn. If you choose a more challenging setup, you will need to clear them continuously and build a defensive perimeter. What works well here is a combination of flame and laser turrets behind the wall, supported by artillery to clear out a wide buffer zone. After the initial cleanup, artillery can handle new nests automatically. The initial base can rely on a belt bus to supply materials. Eventually, however, belts become a bottleneck. Even for a moderately sized factory, belt throughputs stop scaling well. At that point, adding more belts only delays the problem. This is usually the moment the bus gives up. Throughput becomes the main limitation. At small scales, belts are fine. At large scales, they are optimistic. The solution is to move away from belt-based distribution and adopt a modular design. Materials are transported by trains. As we saw in the episodes on trains and circuit networks, it is possible to design systems that are efficient and reliable. This is not the only solution, but it is a reliable one. Trains also have limits. You can add more trains, but only if the rail network provides enough viable paths to avoid congestion and deadlocks. This is where things start to get serious. Rail networks should be designed with redundancy in mind. In areas with heavy traffic moving in multiple directions, it helps to provide alternate paths or even duplicate rail lines entirely. This works because it removes decision making later. With this approach, the rail grid becomes the backbone of the base. The size of the factory blocks between the rails is up to you. They do not all need to be the same size, but standardization makes replication much easier. I find that factories fitting into a 3x3 chunk area work well in most cases. There is some debate about how rails should align with chunk boundaries. I prefer giving rails their own chunk between the 3x3 factory blocks. Large intersections may need more space and can extend slightly into the factory chunks. At this point, aesthetics become optional. Try to avoid excessive use of chain signals. They cause trains to reserve longer sections of track and can block other traffic. Avoid rail crossings where possible. Elevated rails help significantly here. Signaling is always a balancing act. The goal is to keep trains moving smoothly, since braking and accelerating reduces throughput. This sounds complicated, it's actually just repetitive. I usually start by fueling trains with coal and later upgrade to rocket fuel to improve acceleration. So, what goes into a factory module? After trying several approaches, one principle stands out. Optimize for input materials. Most modules produce a single output. The goal is to find a design that requires minimal input while still fitting cleanly into the larger system. There are many variations. This is the one that scales. We start with the basics. Ore processing modules. While ore patches vary, smelting can remain standardized. This covers iron, copper and stone. Oil processing is more complex. You bring in oil and coal, ignoring water, and produce light oil, lubricant, sulfur, sulfuric acid and plastic. There is a valid case for separating all processing and moving sulfur and plastic into dedicated modules. This looks excessive, it is. Next, modules for green, red and blue circuits, followed by science production, rocket fuel and low-density structures for rockets. In space age, the same principles apply to other planets, even if I was not always as disciplined there. This is where planning becomes critical. Factories are designed around train throughput and the desired output. With a 3x3 chunk layout, this often results in a yellow or red belt of output. From there, scaling is straightforward. We add productivity and speed modules and sometimes efficiency modules to manage power consumption. Beacons eventually enter the picture, often triggering another redesign of the factory. If nothing breaks, you didn't scale far enough. In space age, assemblers are not always the optimal choice. Factory buildings from other planets may offer more module slots or built-in productivity bonuses. All of this serves the same goal: consuming fewer resources for the same output. If more production is needed, we simply place another module using the latest design. This design assumes the factory will continue to grow. It's a safe assumption. On top of that, there are infinite research options such as mining productivity, item productivity, and research productivity. Finally, quality can be layered onto the entire system. Machines craft faster, mining equipment extract more resources, effectively adding productivity, and modules gain stronger bonuses in speed, productivity, and energy reduction. A Megabase is not a design, it's a process. With all this in place, it is time to move to the next adventure. If you're curious where these ideas go next, subscribing makes sure you don't miss the next experiment. I will be returning to my modded series, picking up Bobs and Angels in Factorio 2.0, which took a break when Space Age was released.